I have not even thought about that. So I think maybe last year they got tied up a little bit, but you know, it didn't bother 14 other teams or 13 other teams. So I don't think that has as much to do with anything. I do think it could be motivation that we didn't do it last year. So especially the guys that are returning could be extra motivated. I certainly hope that's the case, but I don't see it helping or hurting really any extent at all.
What's it say about Bob Huggins to be able to go from 4-14 last in the league to getting a team that reflects his personality and it's kind of like the old West Virginia?
Well, when you say old West Virginia, you only got to go back 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you have Staten and when you have Javon Carter for that 8 years or whatever combined, I mean that's a pretty good couple, or 6 years or whatever. Maybe they played together a couple, I don't remember, but you got guys like that. That's the equivalent of having Frank and Devontae to West Virginia. So you're naturally going to, maybe when you lose those guys, maybe take a little bit of a step backwards or sideways. And last year they dealt with more crap than we even dealt with, and certainly a lot of their pieces are returning. They got good at the end of the season last year. A lot of their pieces are returning, and then you add a couple of very key pieces, Oscar and a couple of perimeter players. Now they're back to playing like West Virginia played, a couple of years ago, without question.
So are you excited to get going in the conference?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, do I look like I'm not? Or I am excited. Every year it gets me fired up. I've always thought the first season was the non-conference, and you get excited, but you get more excited for some games than other games. We're real honest with our guys when we talk about that. Like in our non-conference, there's about 6 games, 7 games that you circle saying these are the most important games of the non-conference, and you get in the league and you can say, well, here's 18 games that you circled that are the most important games in the league, because they're all equally important. So, I'm excited, and I think the players will be excited as well. The one thing I don't know that they understand, the newcomers, is how the intensity is going to be, increased a couple of decimals compared to what they're used to.
Coach, I know you're going to love me for this, but once again, you got Seth Greenberg, who's basically saying you're off to San Antonio. Just being a successful coach, you're having to fight these things off and deal with them. I looked at your interview in March and how you had to answer it then, but does this come with the job, just that out of the blue people are bringing this up, and any truth to it or anything at all, and people are saying things that this is your last year?
Well, first of all, I had talked to Seth in 5 or 6 months, and secondly, and most importantly, I haven't talked to RC ever about it, and he was in my wedding and I was in his, so I know him pretty well, and we've never once discussed it. Thirdly, I think it's kind of an insult to the Spurs, because they have the greatest coach maybe our sport's potentially ever known, certainly in the NBA, one of the 2 or 3 best of all time for sure. And so, yeah, there was absolutely zero truth to that. The thing that cracks me up about some media types is the more outlandish things that you can say, because what it was bold predictions for 2020. So, you just grab something or throw something against the wall and hope something sticks. But no, there's no truth. There's zero truth to that. And that's not even one that will impact us positively, negatively, nothing. There's nothing to it at all.
Have you played a team this year, size-wise, that compares to what West Virginia would put on the floor in terms of your 2 bigs maybe getting more minutes than what we've seen?
I don't think so. I don't think we played anybody. Duke wasn't, Dayton wasn't, Colorado wasn't, Stanford wasn't. So there hasn't been as many. Now there's been some teams that we could play 2 bigs easier, but it wasn't as competitive a game probably as what this one will obviously be. So mistakes aren't as magnified in those games. But in this particular game, I mean, we're going to play too big some. We'll play small some too, but we're going to play too big some, and it'll be two teams that mirror each other a little bit when we do play two bigs based on style. What they do such a great job of, and this is a supreme compliment, is you know, they're going to make it fist fight, and you better come ready to fight back, and certainly I think that Bob's teams have always done well playing here for the most part, and had great opportunities to win here because they come in here fearless and certainly play that style that is not the easiest to go against, especially when sometimes your ball handling's not as good as it needs to be.
Silvio, wild card. I mean, is the third big if somebody gets a couple of quick fouls?
I think Silvio's the wild card the rest of the season. Yeah, we need him to be good. We need him to certainly impact it more than what he has. We need him to have more opportunities than what we've given him so far, what I've given him. But also he's got a responsibility to do some things better as well. So I do think that, you know, it's, you know, there's Doak and David's obviously been our second best big, and Silvio our third best big. But the thing, you don't look at it, well, Silvio played fine or David played fine. You don't look at it that way. You look at it, how was the team when those guys were in there with spacing and everything else, and that goes along to playing the best basketball you can, and that's going to be a challenge for our two bigs playing together probably the remainder of the season, because we have looked more comfortable playing small than we have big.
Bill, what do you think, excuse me, of the Big 12 race this year?
Well, you know, my personal opinion is it's, you know, wide open. It's too early to say that because obviously he hadn't played a game yet, but I don't think that, you know, West Virginia to me has the most impressive win of the non-conference. I think Baylor is right there behind them. I think Texas Tech's win over Louisville is right there behind that. There's been some teams that certainly have better wins than what Kansas has had, what we've had up until this point. So that means they're capable of beating anybody. I think Oklahoma State, you know, winning at Houston without Likely. I mean, that's as good a win as just about anybody's had. You know, that kind of stuff. So every team, to me, has shown that they're capable of you know, for the most part, beating anybody. But I think what you do is when you look at a race like this, you kind of look at consistency because that's kind of who you are. But you also look at what their ceiling is, and there's a lot of teams in our league with high ceilings, obviously.
When you say that West Virginia does a good job of making it a fist fight, does your team understand that they need to play big boy basketball but still not lose their composure?
Yeah, well, we've actually worked on that, talked about it a little bit. But you know, when I say fist fight, I don't mean anything dirty. What I'm talking about is when the ball's shot, there's, you know, 4 hands above the rim going after it. I mean, they really do a good job of not letting you do what you want to do, and certainly make you play faster than maybe what you're comfortable playing. And so you hit it on the head with we have to be turned up, but we have to be very poised at the same time and not play in a hurry.
Great. Coach, to wrap up the bulk of the non-conference season, you saw multiple major upsets like Florida A&M and Iowa State. What do you make of that?
Well, I didn't see that game. I haven't seen it, but there's multiple ones all across America, and I assume that's what you're talking about. But we've had a couple in our league as well. But it's you know, I don't, you know, Stephen F. Austin winning at Duke, Evansville winning at Kentucky, Florida A&M obviously winning in names, and there's been more that have done that, and there's been more close calls where teams kind of eked it out. But I just think this is a year in college basketball where, you know, people can talk about parity. I don't think the perceived Power 5 is necessarily much better than you know, some of the mid-majors, and I certainly don't believe that the talent disparity is great enough where a team cannot be good and still beat a talented mid-major team. And so that's where I think it's like those are upsets. They're all upsets, but they're not maybe the upsets that we would think they would be, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, because there's just not as much dominance. There's more margin. There's less margin for error for the better teams out there this year, I believe.
Coach, when West Virginia came into the conference, did you anticipate this would become such a good rivalry?
I don't know. I don't know. I think when Hugs went to K-State, I think naturally with his personality and reputation and abilities, I think naturally that got everybody thinking that K-State would become even a bigger rival at that particular moment. And what he started and what Frank and Bruce have done since, it is a bigger rival than what it was before they got there. In my mind, there's no question. I think the fact that, Hugs is the 4th winningest coach in college basketball. He's really good. And I don't know if you know this, he's kind of a colorful fellow that also creates some interest that makes it fun. And so I think West Virginia coming into our league, in my opinion, was really good for basketball. I'm not saying it wasn't good for everybody, but it was really good for basketball primarily because of Bob. And then of course he's had really good players and really good teams, and he gets them to play his way and do it his way. So, this is not an infomercial for him, but I'm a fan. I mean, I totally respect everything that he does and how he goes about his business.
Jalen able to participate some in practice?
No, Jalen is he is participating in individual. He's on the court, moving about a snail's pace, adding a little bit each and every day, and we're hopeful within a 2-week period he can be released and be full go. But we're not at that point yet, though, where he can have contact at all.
Because of that, will you probably not redshirt him, or will you redshirt?
We haven't decided yet. I talked to Jalen and his parents both yesterday, or Jalen earlier, his parents last night. And I don't think you make a decision on what you want to do with him until you see how his health is. If he's not 100%, why would you even consider it? And if he is 100%, now how does he fit in, and does he have a chance to impact this team? Then if he's able to do those things, then you make a decision, at that particular time. But I think it's too early now. I'm hopeful, and I know he's hopeful that he can get to be 100%. But right now, even though he's on schedule, that still hasn't happened yet.
Bill, looking at West Virginia's numbers, they're showing some of the signs of the great teams in the past. They have the best 2 rebounders statistically in the league, but they're not at the top of the league in steals, assists, assist-to-turnover ratio like they were in the past.
Yeah.
So what is kind of what's doing it for them?
I think rebounding and playing through the bigs. They make enough shots, kind of like our team, to keep teams honest, and then they just try to punish it inside. And they're terrific defensively. Even though they don't have as many steals, the things that they do to disrupt you in the half court is about as good as what they've always done, I think. I don't think they do as much in the full court as what they have done in the past, but in the half court, I think it's very comparable. And those 2 bigs, you think about it, one of them's averaging 9 rebounds a game and playing 21 minutes. The other one is averaging 9.5 or whatever rebounds a game and is playing 24 minutes. It's not like that, if you break them over a 30 or 35-minute game, they're putting up some ridiculous numbers. So they've been, I would say, by far the 2 best rebounders in our league to date, especially per minute.
Is there still more growth there out of the bench? We've seen Christian lately, kind of an inside-outside threat. Isaiah had his shot the other game. Is there still room that you'd like to see them grow?
Yeah, we haven't played. Our bench has been very inconsistent. Played well at times, and certainly shooting the ball gives the appearance of playing much better all the time. But I think that Christian, and certainly Isaiah can play at a higher level than what they played so far. I think they've each shown that they can play at a high level, but it hasn't been consistently high. So, yeah, I think there's a big step we can take on from the bench, and if you throw Silvio into that mix, you know, we all know he can take a step forward in a big way as well.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Surprised you guys showed up with no food.